In today's episode, we discuss the most expensive roller coaster ever built, one that some people wish never existed in the first place. Welcome to Airtime Traveler. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Roller Coaster History Podcast. You are listening to Airtime Traveler. My name is Nathan Grace, and I'm joined by my wife and lovely co-host.
I am Haley Grace.
And thank you for tuning in to episode 3 of season 2. If this is your first time tuning into Airtime Traveler, basically every episode we dive into the history of one roller coaster. I am a roller coaster enthusiast and have been for a long time. And my wife, Haley, is a member of the GP, or the general public. So I'm here to do the research and tell the stories, and she's here to make sure you guys don't fall asleep.
Basically.
Essentially, that's how it goes.
I mean, yeah.
It makes it so that I'm not just talking into a microphone for an hour, but I'm actually talking to a person, which makes it
interesting. Let's just bring it down to the actual truth.
Between you and the 3-year-old, yep.
And soon to be
baby. Yep,
soon to be baby.
There's and the dog.
And the dog. We have a little pocket beagle toy Aussie mix, and she is 5 pounds. But man, that dog has.
She's a Spitfire.
She is a Spitfire.
And a drama queen.
Oh, gosh. Did I tell you what she did today?
Oh, no. What did she...
So, I take like a 5-minute drive down the road to pick up, did you run that errand?
Uh-huh. Would you take her in the car with you?
She was dying. And then, my mom was on the phone, and my mom's like, is that the dog? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, she's such a drama queen. I'm like, she really is.
We have taken her to the vet because she's been whining about something. And then the vet checks her out, and they're like, no, she's fine. She's just being dramatic. Like, great, thanks.
It's bad when the vet
That's $120.
Yeah, when the vet calls her a drama queen.
Thanks.
So. Yeah.
Oh.
Our little diva. So.
Well, if you haven't yet, be sure to go and follow us on social media. And the reason I say that now is because if you go and follow us on Twitter or Instagram, you can actually kind of follow along as we go through the episode today. I'll post the pictures and videos that I'll be showing Haley throughout the episode so that you can go in there and follow them. So on Twitter, you'll be able to see all of the pictures because I'm able to put them all in one thread. On Instagram, I'm limited to 10 pictures. So I do collages so that you can get more than just 10 pictures, but you won't be able to see everything in Instagram. So if you want to see everything, go to Twitter, but you can see some of it on Instagram as well. We are just at Airtime Traveler as our handle. I don't think I have any news to cover today. I mean, a couple of roller coasters announced opening days this week, so...
You just are upset about Worlds of Fun.
Yeah, well, I'm waiting to see if Zambezi Zinger is actually going to be open for the ACE event, and it's still kind of up in the air based on some communication I received today, but we'll see.
Nathan's birthday present was to go to the ACE event for Zambezi Zinger.
Zambezi Zinger.
So sue me. So
sue me.
And now he's all bummed because he heard word that it may not be open in time for
they
it
just
to have that event.
So, because the other coasters that are open, so Big Bear Mountain is opening May 12th.
And Dolly's going to be there. For like a day. We're going to show up into that area a day later. And I'm so sad because I love Dolly and I would love to see her in person, but it's going to be a crazy day at the park too.
Absolute insanity.
So
half the people there will probably be people like you that just want to see Dolly.
Just want to see the Dolly.
It's not even the enthusiasts. So May 12th, Big Bear Mountain opens, and then Pipeline. I think it was May 12th or 11th that they start pass holder previews. Mm-hmm. And then I think it opens Memorial Day weekend. So, but both of those coasters have been testing for a couple weeks. Mm-hmm. And Zambezi Zinger, from what I understand, isn't even finished yet. So that's not promising. But we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. So
we can be hopeful.
Yeah, I did mention on the podcast that I would be at that event. If Zambezi Zinger is not open, I probably will not go. So I may not, you guys probably won't see me at the event like I was planning on. Just because we can really only afford to do one trip to Worlds of Fun, and I want to ride the new roller coaster, so I'd rather wait until it opens than, go to the Ace event. So we'll see what happens. But I'm not going to delay any longer because this is the longest script I've ever written for an episode.
Oh, you didn't tell me that.
Well, I'm going to make sure to cut it down because I don't want this episode to be like an hour and 45 minutes. It's going to be, just because I have the longest script doesn't mean it's going to be the longest episode. I'll try to breeze through it. But fortunately for you, we're going to your favorite place.
Disney
World. Yeah, we're going to be talking about
I wish
Disney
we were
World
actually
coaster.
going, but I guess we can pretend.
I mean, it's the next best thing, right?
Sure. I guess if you want to put it that way.
I mean, we can't afford to go anytime soon, so I don't know what more you want.
We can afford the ticket. That's about it.
If that. We could afford the hotel room, but we would just be able to go to the resorts, like just go resort hopping instead of going to the parks.
Oh, Disney, why do you gotta be so pricey?
Because of people like you that love it more than anything in the world.
I would go in a heartbeat. Sell everything I own just to go.
Well, today we are going to be talking about Disney's newest coaster, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind.
I think this is one of the newest coasters we've talked about.
It is definitely the newest coaster we've talked about. Now, it's kind of funny the way that this happened. I had another coaster in mind today from a different park. But when I was looking at dates, I realized that Guardians of the Galaxy 3 comes out on Thursday, which is the day this episode drops.
Ooh.
And so I kind of was like, that'd be
that.
a kind of a fun little crossover to do. So,
Heck yeah.
so if you're listening to this the day this episode releases, tonight is the night that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 releases in theaters. So kind of a fun little combo that we're doing here. So opened in 2022. It is steel, obviously. 5,577 feet long, which is crazy. That is a lot of track. Some of the stats are just kind of estimates based on, we don't know, everything. It's estimated to be about 120 feet tall based on the show building that they built for it. We know it's a top speed of 60 miles an hour. It's estimated to be $500 million. So that's not a number that Disney releases, obviously, but just other professionals in the industry,
right,
based on the technology involved and the construction involved. That is the estimate that has been put forth by a few people, is about $500 million. So that makes it easily the most expensive roller coaster that's ever been constructed, if that number is true. And even if, to be fair, even if it's $400 or $300 million, it's still the most expensive roller coaster ever built. The next closest, I think, is Hagrid's at Universal, which falls in the 150 to $200 million range.
Velocicoaster, you think?
Actually, that's a good. I don't have my phone on me. I'm not sure what Velocicoasters was, but yeah, this Cosmic Rewind is easily the most expensive roller coaster ever built. So that is quite the feat. In the CoasterBot rankings, it ranks at number 64 in the country. It's actually a lot lower than I thought it would be, honestly.
Yeah.
It ranks below coasters such as Incredible Hulk at Universal's Islands of Adventure, Accelerator at Knott's Berry Farm, and Kumba at Busch Gardens Tampa. Isn't that strange?
That's very strange.
Because what it comes down to, if you're talking to... Because the people that vote in the CoasterBot rankings are all going to be enthusiasts like myself, right?
Yeah.
And enthusiasts, some of them care about immersion and storyline and special effects, but some of them could care less,
right,
and they just care about the actual ride experience. because the actual ride experience isn't super intense. So it's not going to be as intense as, those other 3 coasters that I just listed. So if that's all you care about, then yeah, sure, you're going to rank those others, higher than this one. It doesn't go upside down, and it doesn't has a launch, but it's a super intense launch. So it just kind of depends on your preference.
Smooth. It's like one of the smoothest coasters I've ever been on.
Yeah, well, part of that is its age as well, just because it's brand new.
But it's still like I was shocked at how, I don't know, I was not expecting it to be such a smooth ride, but not only that, but it was just just impressive. I liked it so much.
Yeah, it's interesting. So because out of those 3 coasters that I just listed, I have not been to Busch Gardens Tampa, so I haven't been on Kumba, but the other 2 coasters I've been on, and I would personally rank Cosmic Rewind ahead of both of those. Yeah. So I don't know, it's kind of interesting. It ranks ahead of coasters such as Revenge of the Mummy at Universal Studios Florida, Cheetah Hunt at Busch Gardens Tampa, and Full Throttle at Six Flags Magic Mountain. So at Disney World, it ranks as the number 1 coaster on property. That being said, that's not including Tron, because Tron just opened like a few weeks ago. I would almost guarantee it will still be ahead of Tron, though, just based on what I've heard people's reviews of Tron. I think Cosmic Rewind will stay in that spot. It also ranks the number 1 Disney coaster in the world. So out of all the coasters that Disney has built, and there was 6 different properties, it ranks number 1 out of all of those. All right, so reviewed the name. I think it's a good name. So it's obviously a really long name because of putting Guardians of the Galaxy in there. In fact, I'm still up in the air on how I'm gonna name the episode. I think I'm just gonna put Cosmic Rewind in instead of the full name, because otherwise the name of the episode is just gonna be so long.
I think people will get it.
I think so. So there's no other roller coasters called Cosmic.
Disney's Cosmic Rewind.
or maybe like that. There's no other coasters called Cosmic Rewind, so I think it'll be fine. So review of the logo. I think the logo is fine. I think it looks really nice. So I don't know what your opinion on the logo is. So.
I mean, it looks just like the movie. So
it's they basically just took the Guardians of the Galaxy logo and then added the little Cosmic Rewind underneath it.
So great,
that's fine. So. Review of the paint scheme. I mean, the track, obviously, there's not really a paint scheme just because it's all indoors, but the trains are really impressive.
They were so comfortable. Like, I was just so impressed, not only with the comfort of the actual ride itself, but the seats.
It is the most comfortable roller coaster I've been on.
Coaster seat all day and I'm totally happy. So.
What else is there? Oh, just the design, like the paint on the trains is really impressive too. You can even see it in this picture that each one is completely different. Like they put, little damage, places where it's
been through the galaxy.
Yeah, but each one is different. Like you can see this one's got a streak up the middle and on the left side here.
It's Disney.
No, that's what Disney always does this. Yeah. So this one's got on the right side. So yeah, they're all designed to look completely unique from one another. So, and I did want to just talk about the entrance plaza.
It's a cool entrance.
It looks really cool.
It's a cool queue too. Like the queue is really fun to walk through.
The queue is very impressive. So it looks really nice. They did a good job with it. So, with the the Xandarian starship out front, it all looks really nice. You can tell a lot of money went into this part of it too. Clearly, here's the park's description: rock out on an intergalactic chase. An all-new attraction located in World Discovery at EPCOT. This family thrill attraction features the first ever reverse launch on a Disney coaster and is one of the largest fully enclosed coasters in the world. A new innovation from Walt Disney Imagineering, this coaster rotates 360 degrees so you can focus on the action. Yeah, pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't use monologue voice.
No, that's
true. Man.
Next time. No, something I really love, and I know that I talk about Disney all the time, but something that I really love about Disney is how many enclosed coasters they have. Like, in Florida, it's just so hit and miss with rainy weather. And, like, getting on a ride that's completely enclosed, it's like, nice to, number one, get out of the rain, but two, you have more experiences that don't get shut down.
Well,
So,
yeah. It's not going to be like disaster transport
Right.
where even though when it rained they had leaky roofs and it had to close anyway.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, check out, was that the last episode?
That was 2 episodes ago.
Yeah.
It was episode 20.
So go check that one out, because it explains what we're talking about. A crazy episode.
So, all right. You ready for some customer reviews?
Let's do this. They better all be fantastic.
Oh my gosh. Disney's, I've mentioned this before, but Disney coasters are so hard because they just have so many. There was over 4,000 reviews on this ride, and it hasn't even been open a year. So anyway, we'll just, obviously these are some of the best ones that I could find as, best I could. Here's 1 star. The ride was magnificent. However, I didn't enjoy it because it moved your seats in different positions from facing forward. That's the whole point of the ride. So, yeah. It's just,
because, you have to look at the screen.
Yeah.
Like, that's
a
dumb comment. Skip
and also, the ride was magnificent. However, I didn't enjoy it. I don't understand. This doesn't make any sense.
Skip this comment. That one's dumb.
Oh, these are all dumb. That's the point.
Okay.
That's the point.
Nathan, you have to understand, this is my baby.
Don't get defensive. We're reading these because they're ridiculous. 1 star. Not sure what all the fuss is about. Rubbish ride. It's just too fast to take in any of the video. And
Go home.
Don't get defensive. We are reading.
Sorry. I'll shut up now.
These 1-star reviews are like...
It's a rubbish ride. They're obviously from a different country, so...
The coaster is rated 4.9 out of 5 on Google reviews. These people are like less than 1% of the reviews. Okay. Settle down. Settle down. It's just too fast to take in any of the video, and you just spin left and right like an old school fairground ride. Not sure how people feel sick. It's just terrible ride. So many better experiences.
No, Mike.
Well, okay. 1 star. Oh boy.
Oh, I want to read this one. All right, you ready?
Oh, okay.
Believe me on this, you will get motion sickness. Okay. Yes, you will, unless you come fully prepared.
Well, and some people won't, but
Yes.
if you're prone to motion sickness, do be prepared.
Yes.
So
It says, if you eat inside of an hour and go to this roller coaster, this is not worth it. We've talked about this. Please do not eat before you get on a roller coaster.
any roller coaster, not just this one.
Not only are you going to make the experience bad for yourself, but everybody else, because you will throw up on the ride, and it's terrible. Ugh. Okay, rant over.
Haley is in feisty mood tonight.
First, you must first, you must to awake. Oh, wow. First, you must to awake before 7 a.m. to stay at supposed queue to get entrance to the roller coaster. They may call your group earlier, and if expired your virtual queue, you still can go. You won't lose your reservation. Have your EPCOT ticket entrance available. You'll need to check in. Overall, never ever more. I did not like the ride. Well, okay, that was a jump. It was not fun to me. I found the music sound too loud, and the loops inside of a black darkened giant box inside of a black/darkened giant box was not such an amazing as I thought it would or could be. The roller coaster patterns seems similar at the 4 stages of its...
First of all, I have no idea what 4 stages she's talking about.
All over the place. I'm so lost. The roller coaster patterns seem similar at the 4 stages of its course, but different directions? What? I did not find it was pleasant, but just twisted, tossed, and turned without any emotion in it.
First, that line, I was like, without any emotion in it, what is...
I like the twisted, tossed, and turned.
Well, the next time I get off a roller coaster, I'm going like, man, that coaster just had so much emotion. Like, what are we talking about?
Too fast at times and uncomfortable. Too predictable and boring because you can see the pattern of the roller coaster as it is not dark enough. Hold up! It is not dark enough to hide. So she went from like, it's too dark to it's not dark enough, but darken. Yes. I did not find funny the whole journey story. Okay. For me, it was the first and last time experience. I kind of regretted for going.
Wow. What a trip.
That was a very interesting...
Oh. Here's another 1-star. This is a roller coaster in a box. It has movie screens pasted on the walls. Very little attempt at immersion. At no point did I feel like I was in space. Oh, really? And on Space Mountain you do? What are we talking about?
Look at the stars.
Cool concept, but executed very poorly. Thumbs down, Velocicoaster is far superior, and I'm not even a Universal fan. Whoa. Shots fired. 1-star, not suitable for small kids under 7, for sure, even if they pass the height requirement. Okay, fine, you're entitled to your opinion. This part...
It depends on the kid.
Well,
Levi would be like... Levi loved this ride.
Oh, yeah, he loved it, and he is 7.
Yeah.
But this is the part I was like, what? I was worried about my kid throughout the ride possibly having a heart attack.
Right?
What?
Maybe whiplash, but not a heart attack.
Heart attack. That's aggressive. 2 stars. The ride is awesome, but there's a policy that allows us to ride only once per day. That kind of policies makes us not wanting to return to Disney anymore.
Okay, so this is not about the ride.
Well, and not only that, but it's like, if they got rid of the virtual queue, you would be waiting in line for like 3 hours.
Not 4.
Either 3 or 4 hours, and then they'd be complaining about that.
Yeah.
The whole point of I understand the 7 a.m., like waking up at 7 a.m. to do the virtual queue. That's kind of frustrating. I wish they would, just do it, like, I don't know, do it at 8, whatever. I don't care. But... like, without the virtual queue, you spend more time waiting in line and less time doing other things. Right? Like, because I don't like that if you... like, when a ride first opens, sometimes it's possible for you to try to get a virtual queue that day and they just run out and you don't get to ride it.
Right.
That part is frustrating, and I completely understand that, because... sometimes you only have 1 day at the park, and if you don't get it, then, well, you didn't get to ride it that trip.
Right.
Which is really frustrating.
Sometimes if you go to, like, the Disney guest services, they're really good.
Maybe. So
it just depends on the guest service person that you get. But.
And it's typically only that bad for the first couple months after a ride opens. I actually saw a thing today that Guardians of this ride, Cosmic Rewind's virtual queue, when it dropped at 1 o'clock today, lasted for an hour and a half before they ran out of spots. Mm. So... I mean, it's not as bad now as it was a year ago when it first opened, obviously. So. 2 stars. It is one of the size-restricted rides in the park. So if you are a larger person, the lap-type restraint bars may not fit. I was confused about this because this is literally... I was going to say, I feel like this is the most, like... for plus size people, it was one of the most friendly, most accommodating. Thank you. That was the word I was looking for. Most accommodating coasters I've ever been on.
I agree with that.
So I don't know. That was just a weird comment.
No, maybe he's getting confused with Tron.
Maybe it's Tron. Certainly has that problem. 2 stars. They ruined the skyline of Walt Disney World for this mid-tier ride. It's just a faster version of Haunted Mansion and more vomit-inducing. The story didn't even make sense.
This review is fantastic.
Faster version of Haunted Mansion.
All right.
I mean,
what kind of Haunted Mansion is?
Well, I guess because, like, you're just turning to face the action, so you just put that concept on a coaster. I mean, okay, but...
All right.
That would be the only similarity because the themes are totally
different.
Story didn't even make sense. 3 stars. Guardians is a great ride, but if you're someone that gets even the slightest bit dizzy on rides, this one is not for you. My only other complaint is that only one of the 6 songs that play fit the ride's theme. I Ran from Flock of Seagulls is great, and the others just don't make any sense at all.
Okay.
What? I don't think this person has seen Guardians of the Galaxy.
No.
I don't think they understand that any 80s song fits the theme.
Yeah. So I will agree though with the dizziness.
Yes, and there were a lot of those in the reviews.
Yeah, go in prepared. One of the things that I recommend is definitely getting some motion sickness remedies, like either like the bands, like the C bands.
Bands, patches. Non-drowsy Dramamine.
Yeah. And then drinking a lot of water before and after. That's something that helped me a lot because I am prone to get dizzy on rides. So, yeah, that's something I recommend for anybody that goes on this.
We got to ride this twice, right? Mm-hmm. And the first time Haley was really nervous.
I was so nervous because nervous. I've heard so many things about like, oh, you're going to get super like sick and pass out. And so I was really nervous. But after I rode it, I was like, oh, I was okay. I was a little dizzy. Yeah. It took me a few minutes to kind of knock it out of my system, but then walking around and drinking some water, it kind of got the breath back into me.
Well, and then I think that allowed you to enjoy it more the second time we went on
right.
it. Yeah.
And I did enjoy it the second time around. So, but yeah, that's my recommendation. Drink lots of water. Pretty much for any coaster, I recommend that, but especially on this one.
Yeah, so it is just... If you listen to our Disney World review, you already know how we feel about this, but it is a fantastic coaster.
Good.
It's in my top 10 of coasters I've been on so far, and it's not as intense, but it's just one of those coasters that's just a lot of fun. Like I just found myself like laughing the whole time. Like it was just a blast. So, and I'm sure it helps that you and I personally love the Marvel franchises, and so. Like, we love the theme of the Guardians of the Galaxy on top of enjoying the coaster, so it's kind of a win-win for you and me, I think. So.
Right. I'm really excited for the new movie, too, since we're talking about this on the day it comes out, but...
Yep.
Yeah.
Should be good.
I'm, sad about some things, but...
I think that was the last review. Oh, no, I got one more.
Oh, dear.
4 stars. Well, this one, 4 stars. Oh, what was the... 4 stars. This ride is pretty neat. I don't know why Disney needs to make rides based on some story of a movie that is going to be forgotten in a few years.
Oh dear.
Space Mountain is a classic. It's famous because it's a good ride. Here's a little tip for you, and goes on to talk about this. I think I include this review mostly because I kind of agree. Like, I love Guardians of the Galaxy, but it could be interesting to see what kind of original story they could tell, right? And I feel like that's a shift that we've seen in Disney over the last 20 to 30 years where, early Disney, they were telling their own stories like Space Mountain, Big Thunder Mountain, and Figment. And, they have their own stories they were telling. And then over the past, then even like Tower of Terror is based on a property, but it's a completely new story, which I guess technically Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind is as well.
Right.
But then... recently, it's been, Remy's and Mickey's Runaway Railway and the Star Wars rides. And so it's not telling original stories anymore. It's taking existing stories and turning them into rides. So, I don't know, it's good because people love those stories. And so being immersed into the stories is a great thing. I kind of wish we could get some of both, if that makes sense.
Right.
I wish we could get some rides like this. But then also, what can Disney World come up with on their own?
Right.
So.
Right.
So I think that's why I included this one.
I hope we're talking about the queue, though, in this.
Well, we can talk about the queue. I don't want to talk about the pre-show because I don't want to spoil it for anybody that hasn't. Well, I don't want to spoil it for anybody that hasn't had a chance to.
I will say the queue and the pre-show is seriously one of the best parts.
It's incredible. It blew my mind.
I still am sometimes how did they do that?
Well, I know how they do it now, but first reaction was
mind blowing.
What?
It was
blew my mind.
What the heck? Yeah. So
very impressive.
Anyways, we won't say any more than that because we just recommend you just go and experience it for yourself. But so good. It was so good.
All right. Well, let's talk about the history of Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. So let's go back to 1969. All right, 1969.
Okay, so I'm surprised we're going back this far.
Well, part of that is because I want to do... There's two things I want to talk about. I want to talk a little bit about the history of the Guardians of the Galaxy, just because why not? This is the only Guardians of the Galaxy themed roller coaster, so we won't talk about that too long. But then also, since this is Epcot's only roller coaster, I figured let's talk a little bit about the history of Epcot, because this will be the only chance we get to do that as well. So,
fun fact before we start.
Yes.
I think one of the reasons that Nathan wants to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy, he's a huge Marvel nerd on top of being a huge roller coaster nerd.
That's true.
So, this is like the only opportunity you get to talk about both.
I'm trying to think. I mean, the only other Marvel-themed roller coaster...
It's probably like Hulk. Right?
Well, I guess that's true. Which we'll talk about at some point.
Right.
But I think that's it, except for Disneyland Paris has an Iron Man themed one as well.
Oh, that's right.
So, original Guardians of the Galaxy featured Vance Astro, Martinex Tanaga, Captain Charlie 27, and Yondu. That was the original Guardians of the Galaxy. First appearance in January of 1969. Here's a cover of the comic. Very... Comic books can be weird. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
I think this is Yondu. So very different from what we're used to nowadays. Their next appearance wouldn't be until, I guess they just made a one-time appearance in Marvel Superheroes issue 18. Their next appearance wouldn't be until 1974. That issue had Marvel 2-in-1 issue 5, which had enough success to warrant the Guardians getting their own series, which they did in February of 1976. So here is the first Guardians of the Galaxy comic, which...
Yondu looks a lot
Yondu
better.
Looks much more what we
recognize
him from nowadays. So, but the other characters are, still completely different from what we know as the Guardians of the Galaxy. Right. They would appear sporadically throughout the remainder of the 70s and 80s before getting their own publication in June 1990. That ran for 62 issues, ending in 1995. So, and I think this was still the same lineup. Yeah, so Yondu and these. This looks like a group of 5 in this one. So actually, maybe even 6 or 7. Anyway, but it wouldn't be until 2008 when Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning would reboot the Guardians of the Galaxy. Completely new team, though. They kind of handpicked some random characters from across a bunch of different stories and grouped them into, one story. So this is the Guardians of the Galaxy issue 1 from 2008.
Okay.
So, the characters look fairly similar to what we have.
A few of them.
Yeah, there's no Groot on this cover, which is kind of strange because Groot was part of the group, so I don't know why he's not on the cover, but...
I don't recognize the 2 on the list.
Yeah, this we'll talk about these 2 in a second. So there was Star-Lord, which first appeared in 1976. Here's what Star-Lord looked like in his first issue.
Interesting.
Okay. He was an interplanetary policeman. That's quite different from what we have nowadays. Gamora first appeared in 1975 as the adopted daughter of Thanos. So nothing's changed there.
Yeah.
Yep. Here's Drax in 1973, a human whose family was attacked and killed by the supervillain Thanos.
Similar storyline, but very different.
Very similar storyline, yes, exactly. Yeah, looks completely different.
Interesting.
Here's Rocket from 1976.
You're very cartoony.
Wow. It's quite chubby.
Hey, who are you calling chubby? He's fluffy.
An intelligent anthropomorphic raccoon. So exactly what we have nowadays. And here's Groot's first appearance in 1960.
All right.
First of all, he actually is talking in full sentences, which is quite very strange. He appeared as an alien invader that intended to capture humans for experimentation. Wow. That's intense.
That is intense.
This little speech bubble here.
Villain.
Behold, I am Groot, the invincible. Who dares to defy me? Groot, the monster from Planet X.
All right.
It's funny how these characters kind of change over time. The team also featured Phyla Vell, I think is how you say it, and Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock will be making his first MCU appearance in the movie on Thursday.
Really?
So we'll see. I don't know who, like, hasn't made any appearances in the MCU. So anyway, series ran from 2008 to 2010, kind of right as the MCU was taking off, because Iron Man released in 2008. At the San Diego Comic-Con in 2010, Kevin Feige first mentioned the possibility of a film featuring the Guardians. That movie would be officially announced 2 years later in 2012. And since then, the team has starred in several MCU movies over the last 9 years. So Guardians of the Galaxy in 2014, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 in 2017, then Avengers Infinity War in 2018, Avengers Endgame in 2019, a short appearance in Thor Love and Thunder in 2022, the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special in 2022, and then, as we talked about, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 coming out today, if you're listening to this episode as it was released. And then there was also a non-MCU video game that released last year in 2022 as well. So between all of these, like, the Guardians of the Galaxy have just become, it was like it's such an interesting story, because the Guardians of the Galaxy were like a super obscure, no one really read the comic. Like, it was kind of just this, not a lot of people knew about them. And then once the movie took off, they've just become one of the MCU's most popular, franchises. Mm-hmm. And I think the cast of actors that they hired partially helped this take off. With Chris Pratt and Zoe Saldana, Bradley Cooper, Dave Bautista, and Vin Diesel. The five of them just really, brought this to life, and
very iconic movie.
Oh yeah, it's great. We've been watching them over the past few days as we're getting ready for the movie to come out on Thursday.
I haven't completely caught up, but yeah.
And just reminded like how great the movies are. They're just
they're
fun.
Super good.
So there's your brief little history of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Now let's talk EPCOT. Now, full disclosure here, this is a very brief history. We could do not just a whole episode about this.
There's definitely podcasts out there that
I was going to say, we could, not only could we do a whole episode about the history of EPCOT, we could do a whole podcast about the history of EPCOT. Right. There's so much that we could talk about. So this is very, very dumbed down, and I'm probably going to get some things wrong, but let's do the best that we can here. So. Okay, so let's start with the obvious opening date, October 1st, 1982. The park's name was originally just, it was the EPCOT Center was the official name of the park. So this is like a advertisement for the park. Here's an actual picture from opening day. So very cool. Lots of balloons floating off. Lots of people there. So it opens as Walt Disney World's second gate. However, EPCOT was originally conceived by Walt Disney during the early development of Walt Disney World. So here's a picture with his plans. I'll just read this quote. It was as an experimental planned community that would serve as a center for American enterprise and urban living, known as EPCOT, an acronym for Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow. The idea included an urban city center, residential areas, industrial areas, schools, and a series of mass transportation systems that would connect the community. So it was less of an amusement park and more a community of the future. And it was really planned out and extremely structured. And it it was estimated about 20,000 residents would live there. Okay. I think I got another.
Which
here's
I think it would still be so cool to have something like this on property.
So,
but
here's some kind of sketches and artist renditions from early on in development. This is a quote from Walt Disney. "It will be a planned, controlled community, a showcase for American industry and research, schools, cultural and educational opportunities. In EPCOT, there will be no slum areas because we won't let them develop. There will be no landowners and therefore no voting control. People will rent houses instead of buying them and at modest rentals. There will be no retirees. Everyone must be employed." So kind of an interesting concept. Basically, it seems like the idea behind it was to not just have like everything was structured, like everything was planned out where the houses would be and where the businesses would be, and but then there's also opportunities to learn and cultural and educational opportunities and schools and research. But then also they wouldn't let them develop. Like the only development that would happen at properties would be done by Disney. That way, people with more money could develop more over here and people with less money. So everyone would kind of be equal.
Yeah.
And there would be no voting power. So Disney would just kind of run everything.
Right. I am curious. It said everyone must be employed. Does that include men and women? Like, does the wives and the husband need to be employed? Or
it's kind of interesting because
interesting to know.
This development is happening in the 50s and 60s,
right.
which women in the workforce was much more limited back then. So that would be curious to know what his thoughts on that were.
There were so many women, though, in his industry, like puppeteers, dressmakers, like artwork people. Like there were a lot of women that worked for him. So essentially, here's some sketches from Walt Disney. It's pretty cool. So you can kind of see this is a sketch of how the monorail station would work, and then it basically followed the same spoke and wheel design that Disneyland has, where everything would run out from a central point, and you can see even this monorail station just has a bunch of roads running out from that central monorail station out into the rest of the town. So it was going to be the kind of the central point of the Disney Florida property. So people would arrive at the Disney World airport. So we wanted there to be an airport as part of this that was at Disney World. They would arrive at that. So you can see here's where the airport would be down here. And then they would come from the airport, and this was like the entrance to Disney World. And there's there would be a big visitor center. And then that would be where the monorail was, and you could take the monorail to all different places across the. What I find so funny though is like all these like super industrial looking things, and then swamp. The swamp's just
which
surrounding
is true
it.
because it's in Florida.
It is true, but it's just funny that they had to include that in there, like. Very accurate in this description of this is the swamp. This is our very high techy place. Swamp. High-techy, swamp, high-techy,
I guess initially there weren't even plans for an amusement park at all. Like when he first bought the property, he didn't really want there to be an amusement park there. He kind of wanted, Epcot was going to be like a city that Disney would run and do all kinds of development and education. And then out in California would be like their entertainment venue. But when the board of directors heard there wasn't going to be an amusement park, they were really nervous that this would just kind of flop if there wasn't anything to bring people there.
Right.
So Disney finally conceded, and you can see this is you can see it right here, theme park up in the very, very north part of the plans. So after Walt Disney's death in 1966, the concept was kind of abandoned as his brother, oh gosh, why can't I remember his brother's name?
Was it just Bob Disney?
No. It's Roy, thank you. Good job. Good job, Miss Disney. So after
Bob, there was, maybe I'm thinking of the current Bob Iger.
Bob Iger and Bob Chapek.
But no, you're Roy.
Roy is correct. You're correct. So after he died, Roy basically was like, we just need to get the Magic Kingdom done.
Right.
And so all the resources in the company were just, let's get the Magic Kingdom finished. So, which Magic Kingdom would open in 1971, 5 years after he passed away. So, however, during that time frame, well, actually shortly after the Magic Kingdom opened, WD Enterprises, or what we know as Imagineering nowadays, they began toying with the idea of opening a second gate there in the Walt Disney World area. So rather than as a community, they kind of took the Epcot idea and revived it as an idea for a second gate. So a lot of people complain about the fact that Walt Disney's vision for Epcot never really came to fruition. There are a few things from that kind of came to be. I think I got a picture here. So there's some early, planning that they were doing at WD Enterprises for the layout of Epcot. Mm-hmm. Now, and this is pretty true to actually what they ended up doing, because I think Spaceship Earth would be here with Future World going off on either side, and then the lagoon with World Showcase going around. So it's not exactly what they ended up doing, but it's pretty close.
Similar, yeah.
It's similar. The only thing that's different in this that you'll notice is the entrance is right here.
Oh,
so you would,
side.
It's on the opposite side of the park. So you would enter a World Showcase, and there would be this big plaza here with all the different countries basically surrounding this big plaza. And then there would be bridges across the lagoon over into Future World. So I'm not sure exactly. Actually, I might have it in here. We'll get to that.
I think if it's just like a very similar entrance to the not monorail, the gondolas. Sky rails. What's the second entrance into Epcot?
Oh, they do have an entrance that's through World Showcase.
Right.
It's like over by France.
Canada.
It's between France and Canada, I think. Yeah. So, or no, France and United Kingdom. I can't remember.
Yeah,
so it's over. I know it's by France. I can't remember where exactly, but. So a few things that did make it into the Disney World property from the Epcot plan. There is an airport there, the Lake Buena Vista Airport. There also is residence there. There's the Lake Buena Vista Village and the Reedy Creek District, which has been making a lot of headlines lately. The monorail system, obviously something that's very important on the property, which was an idea of Walt's. And then World Showcase was derived from an idea that Walt had for. It would be he described it as a permanent World's Fair that would be inspired by, what do I have here? Be inspired by the final adaptation of the proposed enclosed international shopping center that was supposed to be built below the Cosmopolitan Hotel deck of Epcot. So there's going to be this big shopping center, but then down on the bottom level, there would be actually, I think I have a quote from Walt Disney here. Yeah. Shopping areas where stores and whole streets recreate the character and adventure of places around the world. Theaters for dramatic and musical productions, restaurants, and a variety of nightlife attractions.
So similar.
Similar, but it would be kind of it was indoors, and it would be basically a whole floor of this shopping mall would be dedicated to shopping and food and different things from all around the world. So,
which I love what they did, though, with World Showcase, walking into the actual country, seeing the architecture of the countries, it's very well done.
Yeah, they did a very good job with it. So it's nice that they did kind of get to take some of Walt's ideas and put it in.
I mean, because there is shopping, there is food.
Yep.
Pretty much every single spot.
And essentially half of Epcot is built around this idea of a World Showcase. So there is elements to Epcot that still, fall in line with what, Walt's vision was originally. So as we talked about, they would initially enter through World Showcase. I do have it. So in 1977 is when they flipped the plans and decided they would have people come in from Future World instead. By 1978, the World Showcase plans were changed from a plaza, as you can see here, where it's kind of all in one little circle. And then they changed it so that it would go around the whole lagoon, which probably gave them more space to work with too, I bet, which was a good idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
After signing several large sponsorships in early 1978, the park was officially announced in October of 1978. Ground was broken a year later, so I don't know why it took them so long to do groundbreaking, but and the park would open as planned 4 years later. So there you go. There's your really, really condensed and brief history. Actually, it's not 4 years later. It was 3 years later because it was 82. I just realized I don't know, I did my math wrong there. Opened 3 years later in October of 1982. So there's your brief, condensed Reader's Digest version of the history of Epcot. Obviously, a lot more there we could talk about. But
so much.
We're here to talk about the history of Cosmic Rewind. So, one of the park's opening day attractions was Universe of Energy. Oh, sorry, I have a construction picture here of Spaceship Earth. I forgot about that. So it's kind of cool to look at how they piece this together, right? So there we go. So here's Universe of Energy when the park opened in 1982. Very colorful. Very, very 80s. I'll just leave it at that. This is a cool picture, though. You can kind of see that with the monorail coming right through there. So this attraction was, I think I have another picture here. This is later on. They kind of did a refurbishment of the ride and kind of modernized it a little bit. The attraction was a unique hybrid between a film and a dark ride. So I don't think, did you ever ride Universe of Energy?
If I did, I don't remember much.
I don't think of all the times we went to Disney, I don't think we ever rode it just because, I don't know, none of us were really interested in it.
Like at all.
So after an 8-minute pre-show, guests would enter a theater and be seated in one of 6 sections. The seating area would rotate 180 degrees for the first 4-minute film. At the conclusion of the film, the seating area rotated 90 degrees to face a curtain, which lifted to reveal a primeval diorama. So that's what with the dinosaurs here. Yeah. This is like the theater down here.
Okay.
But then the theater was, like I said, divided into 6 sections. It would actually move. Like you can see, these are just giant vehicles that house like, I don't know, you probably have like 50, 60 people sitting in this vehicle. But it would actually move around and it would kind of go through this section here and looking at the animatronic dinosaurs and everything. Leaving the diorama, the vehicles entered the EPCOT Energy Information Center, where they reassembled into their original theater seating formation. Guests viewed a 12-minute live-action film. At the film's conclusion, the screens would raise and the entire seating traveled into Theater 1, rotated back into its starting position facing the audience towards a large cylindrical screen. There, guests viewed a final 2-minute computer-animated film that was reflected off mirrored walls in the theater, so you can see the mirrored walls here. Yeah. So the entire experience lasted about 45 minutes. That is a long attraction. Very long. And
I feel like even like The Lion King is like shorter than that.
Oh, like the show?
Yeah.
It's probably, like, it's definitely not 45 minutes. I don't know how long it is, but it's not that long for sure. So.
Yeah. I know that, like, the musical, the Nemo musical is probably about that long.
I'm trying to think of any rides at the park that even come close to 45 minutes.
No.
I don't know. I think Living with the Land is like 20. But,
maybe.
I can't think anything 45. I mean, like, Kilimanjaro Safari is probably 20 to 30. Somewhere in there.
More like 15.
You think so? I don't know. Definitely not 45. That's crazy. The attraction would operate at Epcot for the next 12 years. During the 1996 season, the attraction was revamped and converted into Ellen's Energy Adventure, which was essentially the same ride, but it just, they did some new filming. There was an Ellen DeGeneres animatronic that was on the ride now. It featured Ellen DeGeneres and Bill Nye, the science guy. It's like the two.
That's so funny.
I never went on either version of the ride, but if I had, this is the only one I would have been on because, we didn't go until I think 2006 was the first time we went. So, but yeah, so.
Man, I don't think I did because I'm trying to think the first time I went was probably after that.
Well, because this would have been open until, I think it closed in, what year was it? We'll talk about it, obviously. Closed in 2016 is when this attraction closed, so. So, but you guys may have seen 45-minute experience and been like, nope. and to be fair, like Ellen's Energy Adventure, just if you're a teenager at Epcot, that doesn't sound that exciting.
Right. I think like even when we went like on our trips, like I only went once with my family, and like we were more interested in like the other rides and World Showcase, but Ben was a weirdo and liked the Perry the Platypus.
Oh, the
thing
Agent Peas or whatever it is, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't think we did that. And then like school trips, I don't even think we spent a full day in Epcot, if I'm thinking about this right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think I did that.
The ride focused on how energy was produced, the history of energy production, and the search for new energy resources. Focused on the origins of fossil fuels, and described renewable sources such as solar and hydroelectric power. This is
all right. Cool.
That does not sound very...
Sounds cool.
Sounds educational.
Sounds so good.
Yeah. All right, so that's Universe of Energy. Around the same time is kind of when Marvel started making its way into the amusement industry. So in 1994, Universal entered into a contract with Marvel Entertainment to build Marvel Superhero Island. Oh, sorry. Here's a map of Universe of Energy. So you can kind of see as this is a pre-show here. They would walk in, Theater A, it would come around, Theater B. Yeah. Okay. You get it.
Yeah.
So Marvel Superhero Island at their second gate in Orlando. So I think this opened with Islands of Adventure when that park opened. Universal owns these rights in perpetuity, meaning unless Universal stops paying the fees or Marvel deems that Universal is harming their brand, the contract will remain in place. So the contract remains in place to this day for any properties east of the Mississippi River, which is a very specific written contract. It's very strange. So the contract eliminates Disney World from using any characters that fall under Marvel's four most popular groups, which is Avengers, X-Men, Fantastic Four, or any Spider-Man related properties. So this wasn't really a problem until Disney acquired Marvel Studios in 2009. Then this became really complicated, and I mean, it didn't change Universal's contract at all. So essentially, Disney World just can't do anything with Avengers, X-Men, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man. Like, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Because of the Mississippi River rule, Disneyland was exempt from this, though. So that's why Disneyland was able to build the Avengers Campus. Which is smart. Which has Spider-Man and Ant-Man and Iron Man, all these characters that fall into those four groups. But you'll notice if you go to Avengers Campus, and here I've got even the website here, you'll see Marvel is not mentioned anywhere. They are not allowed to use Marvel in anything. It's not Marvel's Avengers Campus. It is Avengers Campus. Marvel can't be in any of their, anywhere. Universal owns Marvel in theme parks. So you won't find Marvel on anything. I think there's even, further down on the list, there was it talked about getting your own superhero merch, where they probably would just say Marvel merch, but they can't. They have to, because they can't use the Marvel license. It's taboo. So it's kind of a strange thing. Before Avengers Campus opened, though, Disney started adding superheroes to their parks by converting Tower of Terror at Disney's California Adventure into Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. A lot of Disney purists were really upset about that. They would consider, the original Tower of Terror to be superior, and that, adding IPs into the parks is just ruining the Disney experience. But I think most people would agree that Mission Breakout was a great addition to the Disney California Adventure Park. So, which I think I got a picture. There you go. There's Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout at Disney's California Adventure. So,
I'm not a huge drop person.
Like a drop tower person.
But I would ride this at least once. So.
It's similar to Cosmic Rewind in the sense that it picks a random song for you to play while the ride's going on. So that's kind of fun. So, I personally, I've not been on this, but it is definitely a bucket list attraction for me. So now back to Epcot. Ellen's Energy Adventure had dwindled in popularity
Shocker.
in the early 2000s. I don't know why.
Wow. Who knew?
I guess...
Poor Ellen and Bill.
I know. It's like, I don't know. It's fine. Whatever. They got other things going for them, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Imagineers saw the space as a potential for a roller coaster, which is something Epcot didn't have. I guess in the early 2010s, talks were had about a Big Bang themed space roller coaster, kind of like a modern day Space Mountain. This was before Guardians of the Galaxy was even in the picture, because Guardians of the Galaxy didn't come out to 2014. So it's kind of interesting that the coaster actually started its development as something totally unrelated to the Guardians of the Galaxy. I didn't know that. That was something I kind of learned. There's not a lot of...
You learning something?
I learn something all the time when I do these. I'm not a know-it-all.
I feel like you're a know-it-all with this stuff.
No, there's too much to know. So, but it's just kind of interesting. That was something I learned, that the coaster actually had its roots in being it wasn't going to have an IP as part of it. So, in November 2016, Disney revealed that major changes would be coming. Disney revealed major changes would be coming to Epcot that would help transition the park into being, quote, more Disney, timeless, relevant, family-friendly, unquote, while keeping the original vision alive, so to speak. A lot of people were really upset about it. This is the thing, like, Disney purists are like, this wasn't Walt's vision, and so anytime they add an IP to Epcot, like, they get all, up in arms about it.
Yeah, I mean, they still do that, but...
Every time. It's so...
It's like, whatever.
So...
It's the only thing I disagree with about other Disney fans. It's like, get over it. So...
So, as part of this, in July 2017, I think this was at D23, Disney announced that a Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster would be coming to Future World at Epcot.
Okay, something I would love to see, though, is the characters roaming.
That would be cool, because
cool.
We're looking at some of this artist renditions here, and you can see Gamora taking pictures, and there's a Rocket and Groot. So I don't know if that was ever in the plan, or if this was more just a kind of
like a rendering.
Just kind of fun for the rendering. Cool. But you can see most of this is pretty true to what they did on the front, at least. The only thing I see, I think they'd be anticipated not having to brace the spaceship on the front like they had to make it look more like it was flying. It looks... because that big brace that sits underneath it in the front is not in this rendition. But anyway. Disney insisted it would thematically fit with the Epcot theme. Essentially the whole idea behind it is it's an otherworldly, but we're still talking about learning about other planets, and that, that's kind of the whole thing. We're learning about the Xandarian culture, and they're coming here to teach us. It's like, okay, it's a bit of a stretch. So to me, if I had one complaint about Cosmic Rewind, it kind of doesn't fit in Epcot. Like, I understand why they put it there, because they had a huge space that needed to be filled.
I feel like it fits more like Hollywood Studios.
Or Tomorrowland.
Maybe.
But they already had Tron going to Tomorrowland.
And it's like Hollywood Studio has
from a space perspective, and from which parks needed a new thrill attraction, like, I get why it went to Epcot. Yeah. And, they tried their best to make it fit. And it kind of fits. It kind of doesn't, but it's fine. I'm willing to overlook that because the attraction is so fantastic.
It's great.
Let's see. Ellen's Energy Adventure would be permanently closed just a month later in August of 2017, and construction for the new attraction shortly followed. So I've got just kind of a little time lapse here. And that's because essentially what they did, which you know this, but they took the original Energy Pavilion, which is this building right here,
Yep.
and they built a giant show building back behind it, which would house most of the roller coaster. So this picture is from May of 2017, a couple months before the announcement. And then that's 2018. You can see them clearing out all this land back behind the pavilion. And then November of 2018, you can see here's the foundation for the show building. And then this is just all like, warehouses and different things to, hold materials. And then they also, you can see them starting to build this tunnel that would connect the two buildings. And then finally, here's what it looks like today with the finished tunnel and with the finished show building back behind. So I think the other thing that they, if we go back a few pictures, you can see they actually added a little bit of a building right here too. I think, oh, sorry, I went backwards. There we go. You can see they add this little building right here. That's where they house the trains at. So that's where they do train maintenance and stuff like that.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how they put the attraction in. At D23 Japan in 2018, it was confirmed the attraction would be an indoor roller coaster. I think people pretty much knew that already. And was set to open in late 2021. Essentially, they just took the Big Bang themed coaster that they had been talking about and merged that with the Guardians of the Galaxy IP to, add a thrilling attraction and a familiar IP to the park.
Yeah.
On May 19th, 2018, Disney Parks posted a video of the foundation being laid for the attraction. So here's some pictures of how they did it. I guess they wanted to do it all in one shot. I'm not, professional on, construction, so I don't know if it's better for the foundation if you just pour the whole thing all in one go. But it took 300 workers 17 straight hours to lay 80.4 miles of rebar and 71,000 cubic feet of concrete for the new building.
Getting it done.
So the video actually has like a time lapse of like the whole thing that you can go and watch on Disney Parks YouTube if you want to. But yeah, that's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work.
On August 25th, 2019, Disney Parks officially announced Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. Here's the little image that they shared. The attraction would feature a reverse launch and Omni-Mover coaster cars, also known as their Omni Coaster. It's a first of its kind programmable roller coaster system where guests can be rotated along the ride track in any direction while traveling at high speeds. Now, there's been some enthusiasts that kind of fight that claim of being the first because, first of all, you have Time Traveler,
right,
which has controlled spinning.
Right.
And then you also have Escape from Gringotts at Universal, which kind of does the same thing.
Right.
Now, I will argue both sides of this because, yes, I don't think you can say it's a one-of-a-kind system when other coasters clearly are able to control spin and which direction coasters are facing at any given point. I will say Escape from Gringotts to me is kind of a dark ride coaster hybrid. Like there's points where it's just kind of slowly moving along and then, I don't know, but Guardians of the Cosmic Rewind is full on roller coaster. So I can kind of see both sides of it.
Okay.
But
I can get that.
Is what it is. To achieve this, the trains have to use a lot of power to kind of, power the actual rotation. I found this. Oh, sorry, I've got some more promotional images here.
We've seen these all.
They also they revealed the trains that day when they made the announcement of the coaster's name. Now here's a blueprint that I found. This is pretty cool of the actual trains and how it works. So there's a battery that's housed. Where is it? I think it's right. Here it is. This is a big battery that's housed underneath each car. And the battery powers the actual, spinning of the vehicles.
That's interesting.
There's also a charging system, this is, the battery comes out here and attaches to this charging element. This is in the station. So every time the train comes back into the station, as it loads up and people are getting on board, that charging element hooks onto the battery and charges it up while people are boarding, and then it disengages and people go out. So
They think of everything.
Every cycle,
That's so cool.
every cycle that the train is coming through, that battery is getting topped off with power, and then it sends it on its way again.
It's just, I mean,
isn't that fascinating?
Like you talk about like different things like this, it makes me think like they got it going on, man. Like this is why I love Disney so much. It's just like they seriously.
To be fair, I don't know if that's an original Disney system. Time Traveler may work the same way for all I know, but it is interesting and fascinating. So
it's just
very
so
cool.
neat that that's like what it does.
And then here's the actual drive assembly that actually powers the rotation of the cars.
Got it.
So. COVID would delay the ride construction by about 6 months in 2020, as most projects were. Disney Parks would post a promo clip of the ride system in November of 2020. So I have this video here. You probably have seen this actually, because I think we watched this when it was released and we were like, whoa, this looks cool.
I think I remember watching it with you.
Now, the one thing I didn't recognize then that I recognize now is this isn't at Epcot.
No.
This is not Cosmic Rewind. This is the train from Cosmic Rewind, but this is on Vekoma's testing facility. So this is on a completely different coaster. It looks to be, based on the layout and other comments I've seen, I think it's their family boomerang coaster. But it's kind of interesting that's how they tested it. That's how they tested it. And it also showcases that technology can be used for other Vekoma coasters. It hasn't yet, but it's kind of an interesting concept that it could be used for something else. So here's some construction pictures from Cosmic Rewind. Here's building that massive show building. Here you can actually see a little bit of the track here, which is kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. So this is the reverse launch going through this tunnel and then up and into the show building.
So cool.
And then the beginning of the construction of the Xandarian starship. In November of 2020, along with that video, there was also some behind-the-scenes pictures that came about. So this is an indoor view of the coaster with the lights on. And it is
what would you give to get like a experience like that? That would be so cool. Either one, to ride it with the lights on would be cool, or two, to get a behind-the-scenes tour. Either of those I would love. Dude.
I figured out what part of the ride this is, though. So this is the very beginning. So you go to this reverse launch, and that's coming out of the reverse launch, and then up into this brake run. And up here is where those big screens are playing. And then you come in here, and this is the first turn.
What if you had an emergency exit?
Yeah, an emergency. Well, that's what this is right here.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if that, maybe you would get your little bit behind the scene action.
Oh, that would if you had to get evacuated. Because this is a brake run right here.
Yeah,
so if you got stopped, then they have this little walkway here that you can actually exit from. So.
That'd be cool. Okay, there we go. There's my.
So you can see a few of them here because this is a brake run down here. You can see some stairs down here. That would be a really cool one because then you can see the coaster up above you.
Oh man. So. All right, cool. There's my bucket list. Is I want to get evacuated on Guardians. Be sweet.
So, filming for the ride would begin in October 2021 with Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Glenn Close, and Terry Crews. It likely was filmed in conjunction with the movie that because that was kind of around the same time they were filming for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So it's more than likely they kind of filmed them together just because it made sense to do so.
Dave Bautista, he's so fun.
So good. So, the rides pavilion would be renamed the Wonders of Xandar Pavilion, which we've kind of talked about. Yep. This is a quote from the Marvel article about the ride when it opened. There's no need to travel to a different planet, let alone galaxy, as the Xandarians have come here to us to share their lifestyle and culture with Epcot guests. Just like any of the pavilions you might find traveling through World Showcase.
You had to speak the monologue voice.
That wasn't quite monologue.
That was totally the monologue.
No, monologue. There's no need to travel to a different planet, let alone galaxy.
Sorry, y'all. I made him bring it up.
As the opening grew near, Disney would kick the advertising into overdrive. And oh my gosh, the advertisements for this thing were all over the place.
Everywhere.
I was seeing it on TV, on YouTube.
I still see it.
At the movie theater. It was all over the place. So. And I don't remember that for other Disney attractions,
I mean, Tron a little bit now, but
not like this,
nearly as
not
much.
like Cosmic Rewind. It was all over the
everywhere.
place. So.
And it still is. I mean, honestly, any kind of advertisement I see, they have at least a snippet of the Guardians.
Yeah. So, finally, after 4 years of construction, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind would open to the public on May 27th, 2022. The ride experience is as follows. Following an extensive pre-show that explains the story, guests make their way to the station. After boarding, the trains make 2 right-hand turns as they enter a lift hill. At the top of the lift hill, the trains began to show off their Omnimover capabilities as riders watch the story unfold on massive screens. After a U-turn, the train is now facing completely backwards, at which point the train is launched to its top speed of 60 miles per hour. The train hits a large upwards hill that turns into a banked U-turn. The cars turn to now face forward as riders enter the main show building. The remainder of the attraction can be described as a series of winding helixes and special effects, including giant projector screens, star fields, and physical props that tell the story. Some turns you may be facing inward, some outward, and some backwards. The spinning kind of makes it hard to explain the actual layout of the attraction, but about 2/3 through the ride, the train hits a second uphill launch that gives the trains enough momentum to finish the rest of the layout, which includes a thrilling double helix. After jumping through one last tunnel, the train hits the final brakes and makes its way back to the unloading station.
The ending is like the best part.
That was very good. So
good.
Here's some pictures from early on. I found this map. Shout out to Park Lore. They do lots of great like illustrations like this that show the actual layouts of different attractions. So you can kind of see here. So here's the original building, right? Mm-hmm. So the original building, here's the queue and the pre-show, and then you load here, and then you kind of make your way up here. And this is the beginning of the launch here, and you just launch backwards through this tunnel and into the show building, and then it's just this winding spaghetti bowl of turns and twists, and yeah, it was so much fun. You can see here's the second launch coming up here, and then the double helix, and then kind of
I think the double helix is my favorite part.
Yeah, it's like you make like one helix kind of
really
slow,
wide,
and then the second one it dives down, and you go like even, and like there's a moon. Well, there's like a moon in the middle, right? So it's kind of like you get this feeling of like you're getting sucked in by the gravity of the.
Right. You know what that kind of reminds me of? Have you ever been on one of those like water slides with like you like
with the big
bowl? Yeah,
you know,
it kind of reminds me of that because you like spin and
get sucked into the middle.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that a little bit. So, anyways, I liked that feature a lot. That was like one of my favorite things about the rides.
Yeah. On theme with Guardians of the Galaxy, trains will play one of 6 songs during the ride.
Which we didn't get that because we had
Christmas. we were there for the holiday overlay, which we'll talk about in a second here. Disco Inferno by the Tramps, I Ran So Far Away by A Flock of Seagulls, Conga by Miami Sound Machine, Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears, One Way or Another by Blondie, and September by Earth, Wind, and Fire. So, now, interestingly, unlike Rock and Roller Coaster, you cannot determine your song based on which train you're on. So, Rock and Roller Coaster, if you can get a glimpse at the license plate, you can tell which song that train plays because each train plays a specific song. Cosmic Rewind, all the trains play all the songs. It's just totally random. So, you'll never know. Cosmic Rewind would break the record for the world's longest indoor roller coaster. We just looked at this. The original Energy Pavilion hosts the queue station in the beginning of the launch track. The launch track is housed in a tunnel that connects the old pavilion to the new show building where the rest of the coaster resides. Now, this was something interesting I learned, and I had noticed it, but I didn't really understand why it was happening. You may notice in some POV videos you watch, there's some extra dialogue between the characters before the launch. So sometimes you might get on the ride and there's just like 1 or 2 lines of dialogue and then you go right into the launch. Other times there's some dialogue and there's like a few more lines that last like 15 or 20 seconds of some extra dialogue between Gamora and Drax and Rocket, I think. The reason that happens is it's trying to delay the launch to let the track clear out before it sends you into the show building.
It's pretty intuitive.
Well, and they do that to kind of, because basically the idea behind it is rather than having you sit there and just be like, oh, did we break down? Is there something happening? Like, what's going on?
That's smart.
There's extra dialogue happening just to give you a few seconds to let the train ahead of you clear the block zone, and then you'll go into the launch. So it allows for a more seamless transition that helps prevent breaking the immersion. I don't think we ever got that, but I remember watching a POV video, and there was some dialogue that happened that I was like, I don't think that happened when we rode. That's because the track was clear ahead of us, so it just sent us right into the launch.
Yeah.
So, kind of interesting. A few Easter eggs from Universe of Energy.
The Easter eggs.
It's so good, and Disney always does this.
Yeah.
I noticed a couple of these, but some of them were new. In the queue, they're interviewing Peter Quill, and he mentions, first of all, part of the reason they go to EPCOT is because the story says that Peter Quill went to EPCOT when he was a little kid. So it's like, he's going back. And so it's like, okay. Well. But Peter Quill mentions being excited to ride Horizons, which is no longer there.
Yeah.
And quote, energy of dinosaurs, unquote. Which is a reference to Universe of Energy, obviously. Which is so funny because we're riding the attraction that replaced that ride. So it's kind of a fun little Easter egg they threw in there. Before boarding the ride, some pipes across from the station have Ellen written in Xandarian on them.
I didn't know that. That's funny.
I don't think anybody who knows the Xandarian language to figure that out. That's impressive. During the pre-launch sequence, the rock music that's playing is a rewritten version of the Universe of Energy theme. And that's for every ride. There's just like some music playing as you go through that first little sequence before it sets you up for the launch.
Yeah.
And it's the Universe of Energy theme but it's rewritten with like rock music. During the launch, Drax calls the Big Bang the Ding Dang, which is a reference to a conversation between Bill Nye and Ellen on the original Universe of Energy attraction. So lots of fun stuff that the Imagineers threw in there is kind of in reference to the old attraction that the coaster replaced, which is fun. In July of 2022, Dave Bautista would film a promotional video with Disney World of him going to ride the coaster for the first time since it opened. Obviously, he loved it, at least according to him. You know, he's not going to do this promo video with Disney and say, it's fine. Yeah. You know? So, obviously, because it's a new coaster, there's not too much more to talk about.
Right.
Just a couple things. For the most part, it's had extremely high praise from enthusiasts and the GP alike. There were lots of complaints early on about motion sickness, reports of extra trash cans in the exit queue and sickness bags. And I remember reading a lot of that when it first opened last May. Mm-hmm. So, But I don't know if some people say it's been dumbed down since it opened. I doubt that. I
think people are more prepared now.
Either more prepared or people just don't ride it if they know they're going to get motion sickness.
Right.
I guess.
Okay, so something, I don't know if you saw this, but really quick, there's like a new like motion sickness band that like hooks up with your, I think it's like your watch. Like it will hook up with
like your Apple Watch?
Yeah, like a smartwatch. And it like helps, like it's a motion, like a C-band almost, but it's like more technology based. And it's like helps you with motion sickness. I saw him on like TikTok or Facebook or something like that. And I'll have to look him up and show you because they actually said, well, if you go to Disney World and get sick on some of the rides, and it was like at Guardians.
Showing Cosmic Rewind.
So it was just kind of funny because it was just like, if you go to, these big parks and you get motion sick, like, this is a great way to enjoy the ride for real, or something like that. So, but I just thought that was funny and had to throw that in there.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I'll have to show you sometime. Yeah. But.
And then the last thing I've got here, in December of 2022, they added, it may have been November through December, I can't remember exactly when they started, but they put a holiday remix on Cosmic Rewind. So essentially, rather than playing one of the 6 random songs I mentioned earlier, it would play, I think it was a combination of a bunch of different Christmas songs, but one of them was Run Rudolph Run, right. But the lyrics were actually changed to Run Rocket Run, which I didn't notice that while we were riding. But
I was too busy.
So
yeah.
I personally was not a fan of that because we were there in December was when we went.
Right. And you wanted the original.
And I wanted to ride the original, and I didn't get a chance to do that. I don't know. I feel like that would have been a fun thing to do maybe the second year it was open, like after people have gotten a chance to ride the original for over a year and a half.
I see why they did it, though.
I mean, I get it, but I guess they started it the same day that Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special released, so it was probably they're trying to promote that too. So
got it.
So I'm bummed because I still haven't gotten to ride it with the 6 songs that's supposed to go with it.
Go back.
Yeah, probably in December, and they'll do it again.
I don't think so. I think we would go a different time.
Maybe so. But that is the history of Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind at EPCOT. Obviously, it's kind of interesting to talk about a new coaster because there's not a lot of actual history for the coaster itself, but obviously a lot of history with the IP that came to be, for the attraction, and then a lot of there was plenty to talk about because I wanted to talk about the history of Epcot and kind of how a roller coaster eventually ended up there, despite Disney purists saying it was not Walt's vision. So, I've heard more complaints from, not personally, I've seen more complaints online about Cosmic Rewind ruining Walt's vision than anything else that's been at
rolling in
Epcot.
his grave. No, I'm pretty sure Walt would take one look at this ride and be like, no, that's cool. Just saying.
Who knows? So he didn't even want an amusement park in Florida, so who knows how he actually would feel about all this. But
seeing all the parks that there is now, so
yeah.
There's 4, 5 different parks for Disney properties, so
well, there's 4, 6 if you include the water parks. So oh, you're talking like worldwide, how many different? Yeah, there's I think 6.
Yeah. So, I don't think he was ever expecting it to get this big. So.
Probably not. So, well, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Airtime Traveler. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure, if you did enjoy that episode, be sure to give us a 5-star rating on Spotify or wherever you may be listening. Helps people find the podcast in the future. I know a lot of you have done that already, and we really appreciate it. So, be sure to go and follow us on social media. As I mentioned earlier, you can... If you didn't, you can go back and look at the pictures that I've been showing Haley throughout the episode. We're on Twitter and Instagram. It is just at Airtime Traveler is our handle. And I don't think I have too much else to talk about. So I think we'll have one more episode before... I'm trying to think of the timing. Actually, I think we will have been to Dollywood by the time the next episode releases. I gotta look at
2 weeks.
I gotta look at the timing of it.
Next Friday.
I think actually the episode might release the day that we're at Dollywood. I think that might be.
We gotta figure out when we're gonna record. Yeah.
So, but yeah, thanks for tuning into this episode. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Got lots more coming. We'll have some trip reports and stuff as we start getting into roller coaster season, right? Our first amusement park trips, got a couple of them this month and one next month. So,
and I'm hoping to contribute as much as I possibly can. But
if you haven't heard, Haley's pregnant, so that kind of makes it difficult to ride the roller coasters.
And we did find out the gender, expecting a little girl. So
that's exciting. So
I'll have my little princess to take to Disney, and you can have your riding buddy.
Yep, and all 4 of us get on Cosmic Rewind.
If Park will ever ride a roller coaster.
We'll find out. He hated the Barnstormer, so
we'll see.
We'll get there.
We'll see.
Well, thanks for tuning in to this week's episode, and we will see you in the next one.